Hello, I am so excited to be back today because I planned a 2-part podcast episode series because I was like, I really want to share my full breakdown of what I did to scale to 6 figures, but specifically, I want you to listen to this episode and be like, oh snap, I know what to do now. This is exactly what I wish that I would have stumbled upon before I hit my 6-figure mark, so that I know this is going to be transformational for you in some way. I know that you're going to get value from this. And I wanted to start by really getting into the story, like kind of breaking down, what did I do? What did that look like to actually scale behind the scenes? And then what did I specifically do? So that's why in this episode, we're going to focus a lot on that story behind the scenes, what I navigated and how each thing led me to what I have today and how I run my business because of that, right? It's kind of like my aha moment, what actually like made so much sense that I started getting those results, that I started seeing like these impactful results come through, ones that were like, oh my God, no way, I dreamed about these results like 3 months ago, and here it is, I have that. Whoa, I just proved to myself that I can do these things. And it's so cool whenever you're able to experience something like that. And that's what I want to share, because I have myself, if you've been following me, you've heard my podcast, you've heard my story. I've made so many freaking mistakes, which is why I feel so grateful, because I know how much I can help somebody else because of those mistakes. And I've made this pact to myself. I don't want to hire anybody as a coach or mentor that hasn't gone through a lot of mistakes, that hasn't shared those openly either, that hasn't really gone through what I've gone through in some capacity, because they're not going to understand how to navigate it. They might not understand how I'm feeling either. And that's so important. Based off of my experience with investing in coaches, I know that that's the priority over anything else. So always keep that in mind. The best programs, the best stories, the best experiences are built from the biggest struggles. Right? And I think that's really what I can say about my program, the Profitable Content Academy, is it has been built because of the struggles and the things that I've navigated. It's built because of that, and I've seen the problems and I've figured out how to overcome them, so that I created this program, right? And that's like the biggest lesson. So there was a time where I almost quit my business. Like I was so close, because I had just gone through a very hard launch. Like when I say hard, it's like one of those moments where you spend so much time, so much time. And it's pretty much taking over your life, taking over your mind. You don't focus on anything else but your launch, that kind of launch, right? It was scary, and I think it felt that way, especially because it was one of my first ones. So I think that's somewhat normal. But at the same time, it really sucks when you put so much work to see nothing. It feels like you wasted so much of your time and effort. It is the most gut-wrenching feeling. And that's what I felt. That's what happened. And I was like, what in the hell? Like, nobody bought. And I felt like I wanted to crumble in a hole and just run away, basically. And what I didn't realize was, because what we do is we try to think, what did I do wrong? What happened? I did everything I was supposed to do. It didn't work. And I really can look back at it and think, yeah, I did do a lot of things right. I did. It's true. But I didn't give myself grace. And now that I can look back at it, I can see exactly what I could have done. Not really what I did wrong, but what the stories I was telling myself and how much pressure I was putting myself on that masterclass, or on that, actually not masterclass, how much pressure I was putting on that launch was completely eating me up. Like it was like an end all be all, like thinking, okay, finally I'm launching myself to the world. This is it. This is me. Come get it. And then nobody signs up and you feel like, oh no, I did it and nobody signed up. I'm done. I'm going to crawl in a hole now. But that's not what launching is supposed to be. It is actually supposed to be this really fun way to figure things out, to strategize, to experiment. it's supposed to be an experiment. It's supposed to be. Every time I launch and every time I sell, I'm always experimenting. Okay, that worked. This didn't work. I know how to do this now. Like, it is an experiment. And even if you have a course or something, whatever, teaching you how to do things, you're still going to learn more from your own experiments. Period, point blank. Now, the point of this, what I'm getting into, is I was like, oh my God, I wanted to curl in a ball. So instead I just took like 2 weeks off, reevaluated my life and what I was doing. And then I remember my parents were sending me job postings. Not really because I didn't sell, but I just don't think they really grasped what I was doing. And my dad likes to send me job postings anyways. That's what he likes to do. But I thought, oh no, thank you, because I don't want that. I just remembered what I was doing, why I'm here, because I believe in myself and I feel like I have to show it to other people. I feel like I have more to prove. So I thought, okay, let's give this another go. I need more followers, which at the time, looking back, is funny, but I don't regret my focus because I'm going to tell you how it led to what I have now overall. So I thought, I got to get more followers. I got to get more visibility. That's why no one's buying, because I'm supposed to be a social media coach and I have 800 followers and they're not going to trust me with only 800 followers, which is such a limiting belief. It's like so humorous to think about. But at the same time, I'm like, that is why people are going to hire me now, because I don't have a lot of transformational wins yet. So they're going to hire me because I know how to grow on social media and attract clients. And so that's kind of how it started, my business coaching. It started off by helping you there. And then once I learned how to sell that, then I was able to sell the fact that I can sell that. So it's kind of how it stacked. Anywho, I gotta grow. So I focused on creating this lead magnet. Basically, it was a content strategy guide document. And I created it in like a day. And I remember being like, this is pretty good. I don't think I should give this for free. Like, should I give this for free? Sure, what do I have to lose? Whatever, let's do it. And I pretty much launched that freebie. I launched it to my audience, and it actually did something very interesting. What it did was it put me on this like top height awareness for content. Like, all of a sudden, because I was willingly giving away how to create a content strategy, people started to see me as this authority, like a lot differently than they did before. It was like a night and day difference almost. All of a sudden, I was someone to continue listening to their advice. I wasn't just like an educator online anymore. And the reason it did that, because I realized that content strategy guide was so niche specific. It was so like specific in terms of, I'm giving you a specific outcome that you're going to get. It was such a no-brainer download. And I launched it, so I posted about it, like a few posts, and some of those posts were reels, and they got a good amount of views to where it got me a lot of visibility, and it grew my email list to a few thousand in like a month, which was crazy. I was like, what the heck is happening right now? And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, maybe I have something. And at the end of that document, I remember I had a link on that guide to book a sales call with me, because I was like, oh, okay, I gotta make sure people buy from this. I gotta optimize the freebie. And that turned out to be a fat mistake, because what happens whenever you promote a high ticket offer from a freebie, like something that someone downloaded for free, that literally anybody and everybody can essentially get, then you start to just get a bunch of people who are just trying to get something for free even more. Not that it didn't, like, I'm gonna explain kind of where it actually took me, because it did build my authority, but I kind of sold wrong. I kind of went at it a little bit wrong. And it booked me a bunch of sales calls. It gave me like 2 weeks worth of booked sales calls. I was like, no flipping way. I'm so excited right now. Even though I have to be on these sales calls, I'm so excited. My business is popping. I just feel like I just made it right then and there. And as I went on these sales calls, it was a good mixture of ghosting or people saying, oh no, I can't afford that. Or I got in this call because it was a free call, like a free one-to-one call. I'm like, what the heck? Why are people thinking this is a free call? What's going on here? This is for my program. And as this kept happening, I kept changing the boundaries of who I would be on calls with. I kept changing something each time so that I could minimize this problem that I was having, where cool. Now, like, I've gotten people's attention, but now I gotta figure out how to sell to them, right? Like, I'm at this point, I'm growing to, like, I got to 1,000, and then I got to 2,000 and 3,000 followers, and, like, I started to grow, and doesn't mean I knew how to do sales at all. And so I was like, I want to master sales. I want to know how to sell to people. And I know there's people who want to learn from me, because now I'm seeing this clear, like, need for something. I'm gonna need to learn how to sell this offer, an offer. And so what I ended up doing was I decided, okay, it's time to switch the strategy. Something is wrong. I got to take accountability, because I keep getting running into a problem. And so as I fixed the strategy up a little bit, I remember that summer I signed, like, I think 2 clients that were high ticket. To me at the time was high ticket, was $1,000. And on the sales call, they both bought. And I was like, okay, I have my first 2 high ticket clients ever without even launching. And I just did this launch where nobody bought. And all of a sudden I signed 2 clients over the summer without launching. And because I started to sort of shift that, I kept updating something in my strategy. Okay, no one's joining the sales, or people keep saying no on a sales call. I need to make sure they know this is an investment before they get on. I need to not call it a free discovery call. Like, that was one of the things. The other thing was I need to let them know it's a potential 4-figure investment. That needs to be a qualification question before they get on the call. And I added that as a question. Now it was also a matter of, who am I talking to when I sell? I need to make sure that I'm also talking, and this is the biggest part right here. I need to make sure that I'm talking to people who are already looking for high ticket, which was difficult at the time because I'd never really done that. But then as I start to experiment, then all of a sudden I signed 2 high ticket clients who were like, your strategy is really good. Like, I like your funnel. And I was like, I have a funnel? Like, okay, cool. Like, I have a funnel. But something was clearly sticking out. And I was like, awesome. It's time to launch. So because I learned and I navigated and I went through these problems of no one's buying high ticket from me, even though people are following and liking my stuff and downloading my guide, I don't have a high ticket sustainable strategy, and I need to build that. That's priority now. Because I'm now known for content strategy, because I've gained this reputation for this, and I've really just given so much value, I have a good advantage. I have to use that momentum to approach it right. Otherwise, nobody is going to buy. So again, I switched for like a month. I did this problem awareness. I started to lean into what mistakes I started to see. I started to go a little bit more in depth and solve specific problems, right? What I did was I spoke to problems, and I stopped telling people how to grow on Instagram every other post. Like, it's not that I was doing that every other post, but the way I explain this, what I really mean when I say this, is that I had to start speaking to a higher level client versus a low level client. And this meant I had to speak on problems instead of telling people how to grow on Instagram and really speak to those low level sort of qualifications. I had to talk about transformational stories. I had to really lean into the transformation that they are going to get, and I had to get really good at selling that story of the transformation, which goes into I had to define the offer journey process that I was also going to take them on. So I had to really create that desire by doing that. And that's what I'm going to go into depth more on episode 2, where I actually share what I did exactly and how I did all that. But what I realized was, when I'm more specific, because this content strategy guide helped me be specific, even though I tried to upsell to a complete high ticket offer right away, instead of actually start selling to the high ticket client, the one that would actually want to invest versus just get a free strategy guide. I realized it actually helped me, but I had to use it the right way. So what I did was I started to create content that overcome specific hurdles and actually giving people more clarity in the offer. And because what happens is whenever we start to market to our audience, we tend to overload them with information because we think they're going to get a bunch of value. And so what I had to shift was I really had to pinpoint the story of my program, the story of it and how I'm creating it and why, like the transformational part of it piece by piece. And then I had to, in content, solve specific struggles versus getting into this overall, like do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, this. The specific thing was key here, being specific. And that's why I really got good, or that's really why I got into creating this really good offer story with a very specific outcome. And that's really what a niche is, right? When people say you gotta have a niche, I don't even use that word, because what I actually think about is just solving specific problems. And this goes for any niche you're in. I know there's people who are, depending on what kind of coach you are, you might say, oh, I can't have a niche because, my clients all have different problems. I see this commonly with like life coaches, for example. And that's fine. But you still gotta if you don't have like a specific niche, you gotta have a specific problem. Otherwise, we're not gonna understand what you're helping me with. I'm not gonna be clear. It's not gonna make sense for me to join. And I have to have a lot of clarity in your offer to be able to join that offer, right? I have to have a lot of clarity in you and confidence that this is the program for me to be able to join it. And whenever your transformational story and then your journey, your what you can call a vehicle, the vehicle to getting that transformation, are both sold very well, they go hand in hand. You can't have a transformation by itself and expect to sell, and you can't have the vehicle of the transformation to sell by itself. You've got to have both. They clap, they go hand in hand. And that's what I realized, is that is why I eventually, when I launched, I geared up and I fixed my strategy. I had a $10,000 launch. And I think that was like 8 clients at the time for me. I kind of get flaky on the number, but all I remember is it was a $10,000 launch, and I had a handful of clients all of a sudden when I didn't have. I had 2 of those high ticket clients, and like some of them were ending their sessions with me. So I was pretty much about to start from zero again, and boom, now I have these handful of clients because I did that $10,000 launch where I really sat down and got specific in that journey and the outcome. And I was like, holy cow, I did something. Something worked when I actually put effort in the sales part versus creating content with call to actions. Something really happened. And I'm not saying like you have to go launch, but I will say this is what catapulted my business to 6 figures, because it taught me how to sell high ticket. And I think launching just kind of helps put more eyeballs on the offer. That's really what you're doing. You're putting more eyeballs on your offer. You're putting more attention to the offer, more awareness, yada, 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 yada. And I was like, crap. I booked a few sales calls from that, and like back to back. Okay, yes, I'm in. Okay, yes, I'm in. I remember getting off these calls and I was talking to my husband. I was like, well, he's my boyfriend at the time. And I was like, oh my God, everyone keeps saying yes now. What the heck? Everyone was saying no for weeks and weeks, and I thought I was losing it. Like I was ready to turn the page and just be done. I was so done. I thought maybe it was my sales call skills, which could be a percentage of it. But I knew it was mostly because everyone that would join would be slightly like they didn't really trust me enough. And I needed people to come on these calls with this attitude of, I like the way you teach it and I want you to help me with this exact problem, and pretty much be set in the ways that I help them so that the sale was much easier to make, versus trying to get them on this call and trying to tell them how it all works, convince them of it all right then and there. That's basically what I shifted. I was like, oh snap, whenever they are super clear on this transformation and they're super clear on the outcome, it just is like, obviously I'm going to join your program now. And it just, everything clicked. Now, I did kind of navigate some struggles after that because I signed the 10,000 and I kind of shut down and for a few months, and I didn't sign any clients because I was like, oh God, what do I do now? But then I was like, this is insane. Like, I want to sell Evergreen. Let's sell Evergreen. And then I invested in a mentor. And, when I look back at it, my mentor didn't really like give me any strategy. I knew I had my strategy. what I actually got from him at the time was clarity. When I joined the program and all of a sudden something clicked and I put my own strategy to work. And then I made a $30,000 launch. And something interesting about that was I didn't use a masterclass, but what I did have to leverage was focusing on a client at a time. It wasn't like I sold and then all of a sudden $30,000 in one day. It was actually me going back to like what I did, nurturing, being known for something and continuing to do that, and then also selling. And so now again, people were desiring my way of getting them results. They were desiring the pathway. And for me, I started to lean into the whole no cold DMs because I had just done it. I just signed a bunch of clients and I just realized, oh my God, this is how I did this without DMing people. And especially because I kept seeing that as a problem for people. And I get so many cold messages. So I was like, especially I think at that time, this was a little bit more of an interesting take for people. They were kind of like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. And so it stood out. And so I marketed and I helped them learn how to do the same thing and talking about that. And that again catapulted my business to $30,000 because I'm like, people are knowing me for this. I'm giving them value. And then I'm again attaching that value to my program and selling daily. And now there's a desire for my program because I'm connecting the story and I'm connecting the vehicle. Boom. Right? And that's ultimately what helped me keep signing clients every month, because not only did I use my niche to be specific, and as you start to be known for that, then you start to be a little bit more of an authority overall. And then you're able to sell overall. So it's always important that you're not just creating this brand, a personal brand. You're solving a niche problem versus jumping into an overall brand, because that's something that takes time to build. It always starts with a niche. You gotta be known for something until you can scale up. That's literally how every single high-ticket business owner, every business owner, successful entrepreneur has to start with something specific. And then once they are known, they can be more broad, right? I'm trying to think of an example right now. Like I know Gary Vee, I know he started off with selling wine. Now he's an entrepreneur, and every single entrepreneur gets value from him. Every single one that is an entrepreneur, not just like a coach, it's like literally everything. And if he goes and sells something, he can sell to everyone because he's just known he has that brand now. I need to give them a very clear step, because I don't want people to join a masterclass. I don't want them to read my content and be like, okay, but like what I do now, I gotta make them feel like, oh, MG, that's it right there. That's gonna be the solution. That's what I'm gonna have to do right now. Thank you so much. Now I know what to focus on, regardless if they buy from me or not. Like that was my goal. Okay, if you're not gonna buy from me, then you're gonna at least have clarity. That's what it is. And that's really what value translates to, because people think value is giving a bunch of information. And in a way it is, but actually the best kind of value is just the clarity. So that's why people think, oh, I can't give too much because people won't buy. But the reason why people don't buy is because you are giving too much and you're making them confused versus leaving them to this overall like, OMG, this makes too much sense. Thank you. And that's why my perspective shift posts always do better than like if I were to go in and do like a how-to step-by-step. Whenever I can change someone's perspective, get them to think about something in a specific way, shed some light overall on something, and make them think about my strategy way differently, then all of a sudden they start to look at me as the person to help them with that. That's the key. If you want to know specifically what all this looks like, that's why I separated this into 2 parts. So go ahead and join me in part 2. And thank you so much for listening. I can't believe that the podcast on Spotify already has 25 stars. I saw that today and I was like, what in the world? It means the world to me that so many of you are enjoying this episode or enjoying my podcast. If you are enjoying it and if you're feeling you're getting a tremendous value, the least you can do is go ahead and let me know by giving me a 5-star rating, or write it on iTunes 5 stars, whatever you're listening on, whatever platform. That means the absolute world. That means I know that I can keep creating more of these episodes for you, and I will see you in the next episode.